Now, I bet like most people, you're pretty nervous about having to deliver any sort of online training. For some of you, you've probably never used Zoom before, or if you have, it's only as a participant and not as someone trying to run the training. That's quite normal. So in this instance, what I'm going to do is show you the basics to not just set up your Zoom session, but also how to use some of the simple tools to actually get you started as a Zoom presenter. This will help you in any of the training that you have to do as a part of your qualification, as well as if you have to do any of this sort of stuff in your workplace. So let's get started. Let's just start with the basic gear. You're going to need a computer with a webcam, good Wi-Fi or plug-in internet, Microsoft PowerPoint loaded on your machine, and either Zoom or Teams loaded onto your machine. So that means actually a copy downloaded onto your computer. Now in this case, we're just going to be talking about Zoom. So let's look at this setup. As you can see, there's a couple of extra things in here. Firstly, I've raised the laptop up so the camera is more on eye level. Very important. No one likes to look up your nose or on the top of your head. So it's good to have it at a level. Now, I've got a stand here, but you can use books. You can lower your chair. There's a few other ways around it, but just make sure that that camera is at close to eye level. You can also see here I've got a microphone separately set up. That's not 100% necessary. You can have a headset with a microphone on it. I do kind of recommend that in one way because you can also hear the audio really well. Alternatively, it can just be coming out of your laptop. There's no hard or fast rule as to what's better, whatever suits you and whatever equipment you might have. If you're just using the microphone in the laptop, that's also fine. Just make sure that it's set up, and we'll show you how to do that in Zoom in a moment. You'll also see here that I've got a separate mouse and keyboard set up, a Bluetooth one. Now, again, I can strongly recommend that simply because most people find it easier moving a mouse around rather than just using the trackpad on the laptop itself. People can get into all sorts of mess trying to find things on their desktop if they're using the trackpad. So you can pick up a cheap mouse for $20 odd for a decent Bluetooth mouse, and that will get you out of a bit of trouble when it comes to navigating around the desktop. Okay, so that's the setup. As I mentioned, you don't have to have all the accessories. The other thing that I will mention in the more advanced part of this video is the possibility of having a second monitor attached. That's really useful when you're presenting because you have a presenter view where you can read from the slides as you're going, as well as still have the Zoom window open, so you're not trying to flesh out in between both the Zoom video and the video you're presenting to other people. Again, that's a nice to have, not an absolute have to have. And I'll show you a couple of little tricks to switch between screens if you don't already know. That'll help you get out of trouble if you lose the Zoom call, so to speak, or you lose sight of that. Okay, so the next step now will be going into Zoom and showing how to use those key elements of Zoom, key features, during a presentation. So on the screen on the right, you'll see the basic Zoom window, and on the left, I've got my presentation that I want to present to the audience. We'll start off on the bottom left of the Zoom screen where you've got your microphone. Firstly, you have to select the microphone as your system microphone if you're using the built-in microphone in the computer. If you have an external one, then you can just select that. That's one of the first tricks that a lot of people miss, and their audio doesn't work and they go into a panic. So that's the first one. Then the speaker, same thing. If you've got an external monitor with a speaker or you've got external speakers, then select that. If you don't, then again, same as system, and that'll get you out of trouble. Next is your video. Same thing, click the up arrow and you've got your FaceTime or you've got your built-in webcam. Select that and that will use the webcam. If you've got an external one, then you can select that. We'll quickly run through the rest of the functionality on the bottom of the screen. So we've got the participants. As people join, you'll be able to see them on the right-hand side here. If you want to chat to them, you click on the chat function and that'll either pop up in a separate window or it'll pop up in this window here. Now, I suggest as a presenter, you do have your chat function open, but just note here that when you type something in the chat, you want to make sure you're selecting everyone or an individual within the group. Sometimes I've accidentally sent a message directly to one person when it was meant for the group and vice versa. So it's a bit of a trap, that one. So just be careful of that. The other functionality that you'll probably want to know early on is this thing called Breakout Rooms. Breakout Rooms allow your students to get into pairs or groups to undertake some activity that you're running. It's as simple as clicking on the Breakout Rooms icon
and you can either assign automatically or manually. Now, I've only got 2 people in this room, so it's only going to give me 1 breakout room, but this will list all the individuals, and you can simply assign the room as you see fit and then open them. When you open breakout rooms, the students will receive something on their end that they click on and go into that room. Once you stop the room, then what will happen, they'll get a 60-second countdown, and then they'll start to automatically be brought back into the main room. I won't go into the advanced functionality of polls, etc. at the moment, because this is just a basic introduction. But we did talk about allowing you to put a presentation on. So firstly, to present anything on your Zoom screen to somebody else, you have to share your screen. So that's the green button in the middle. Click on Share Screen, and it shows you your options. You can have a whiteboard open, you can select one of the windows that's already open, or you can select your PowerPoint. Now, if I select this PowerPoint, notice that it's not in presenter mode yet. So it'll simply share this over here. And what's happened is that your Zoom screen has gone away. If this happens, don't panic. First of all, 2 things. You should still be able to see this toolbar somewhere on your screen. But if you can't, then you can hit Control-Tab and you can select Zoom, and that'll bring it up. So Control-Tab, or on an Apple it's Command-Tab, and you simply hold the Command or Control button down, click through with the Tab button until that program comes up. And once it comes up, you simply let go. I'll go all the way through it again, and it'll come up. So that was a little trick before. So now look what happens when you stop sharing. Your screen comes back. You can see everybody again, no problem. So if you wanted to share the full presentation, not just your notes pages, which of course you do, then you'd click Present, but then this happens. Okay, now in this particular case, it's gone to full screen on me, booted me out, can't see anything. So what do? Control-Tab, and there we go. So now you've got your presentation running in the background and your Zoom screen in the foreground. If you want to click through your slides, just remember you still have to click through your slides on the slide presentation itself. So you will miss out on your Zoom screen, and it doesn't really matter. As long as you know you're going through the presentation, then your students will be able to follow along. Again, Control-Tab or Command-Tab brings the screen back if you have any questions. And in the background, if I click on this again and stop the presentation, all goes back to normal. So I'll just do that again and share the screen and show you what happens. So I'll click on the presentation again. I'll open Zoom again. I'll go to Share Screen, and there's the presentation, the full view. If I click on this now, same thing happens, except now at least you've got your control bar there for you to actually chat and get things going. So if I click on the chat, it'll actually show up in front of the presentation. Now your students will not see this. They'll not see the control bar or the chat function on their end. They'll just see your actual presentation. Okay, so stop share in this case, brings us back. I'll stop the presentation as well, and we're back to that original screen. So the last thing I want to share with you is one of those traps that a lot of people fall into when they're sharing videos or sharing a video that's embedded in their PowerPoint, and that's the audio. So to ensure that your audio is being shared with your audience, open the share button and you'll see 2 things: optimize for video clip and share sound. So just like it says, if you're sharing a video and you want the sound to actually play on their computers, then make sure you've got both of those selected. Now, luckily, once you've selected this the first time, you don't need to keep going into it and selecting it each time. Every time you reshare your screen, both the shared sound and or shared optimization for video clip will remain. Okay, so hopefully that gets you out of trouble. So remember Command-Tab or Control-Tab, and that'll cycle through the programs that are open on your single computer. Now I say single computer because the preferred option is to have a second screen, in which case you can have your Zoom screen open on one and the presentation running on another. Very handy, and then you don't have to worry about that Control-Tab, Command-Tab function to get you in and out. Always remember, as a presenter, click on mute if you don't want to be heard, or if you're on a break or someone else is speaking potentially. And same with the video, make sure your video is always on. People like to see you as the presenter. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the session about how to use Zoom as a presenter. This is just the basics. There are a lot more things we can do with Zoom to make it way more interactive, but that's for another video or an advanced facilitation skills course. If you have any other questions though, or you want to know something specific about what we've talked about, just pop it into the comments and we'll make sure we read them and get back to you. Bye for now.